evening, everyone, and welcome to AFMX 2021, the virtual edition. I'm Ivan Weiner, the Executive Director of Albuquerque Film and Music Experience. If you just caught the sound of us, you're in for an incredible Q&A right now. But before we get started, I'd like to list our sponsors. Presenting sponsors are so important for the virtual as well as in-person festival. And we have some great ones. Albuquerque Film Office, Bernalillo County Commissioner Stephen Michael Quezada, Breza Terrena Olive Oil, Comcast, NBC Universal, Real Solutions, Airport Meet and Greet Service, Sunny 505, the Baker Law Group, University of New Mexico Film and Digital Arts, Wells Fargo Advisors and Larry Schwartz, Yamaha Entertainment Group, and Jelska Road Productions. For a complete lineup of everything that started on Monday through the end of the week, visit us on our website at afmxnm.com. Please note that audience members will be allowed to ask questions during this Q&A during the conversation with Chris Gero. And you can type your questions right into the chat box, and we will try and answer every question before the night is over. Please note that all films, Q&As, and center stage conversations are available until October 11th. So it's not just the end of this week when we do our awards on Sunday. And make sure you do mark your calendars for the award ceremony that's going to be live on Facebook Sunday, September 26th at 7 p.m. Visit our Facebook page, like it, go to our website, check out all of the exciting action that's taking place the rest of the weekend. It's going to be a good one. Without further ado, I'd like to introduce our moderator for this evening's Q&A, Casper Gomez. Casper has worked and performed in the music industry for over 25 years. He has carved his name on the sound halls of his native town of Albuquerque, New Mexico, and has built a name for himself as a guitar instructor, sponsoring multiple low-income students with instruments as an incentive to succeed. His latest work is with trumpet player and smooth jazz chart topper Ryan Montano. His next release includes a collaboration with Grammy Award-winning drummer Greg Bissonette. Casper, welcome. Thank you so much for your time and energy towards the sound of us. And take it away. Enjoy the show, everyone.
Thank you, Ivan. Thank you, everybody. And thank you, Chris, for joining me once again and allowing us to discuss, as far as I'm concerned, a beautiful film about music. And you've mentioned before that music is the star of this film. And it makes sense if people understand what you're explaining. But at the same time, we have multiple musicians. We have multiple genres of music that you talk about. How did you finally settle on the musical performances and the musicians that you actually chose? Just pick a few if you had to choose. But how did you finally decide, out of all the options, to pick those particular musicians performing those songs?
Yeah, thank you, Casper, and thank you for having us. Thank you, Ivan, and everybody. The way we chose the performances themselves are very, very specific to the storytelling element of what you're seeing. So there's only a few actual performances, but they relate to the visual aspect. This is a lot of stuff, but they relate. They're just completely tied together to either the segment and what the segment represents
Right.
that you had just previously seen, or an idea that carries you forward into the next segment. So how we chose that was, for example, Feels Like Home, which is Grace Kelly and Elliott Skinner. The previous segment that you saw was called Second Time Rounders, and I talk about, they say you can never go home, but with music you're always there, and I wanted to kind of convey the beauty of what that means to personally, actually, to me musically. And so when I heard that song, Grace Kelly, who performed it and wrote it, I just said to the gang, it's got to go in. It's poignant. It means something. It will mean something to the, to the, the listeners. And so, or the viewers, excuse me. And so every song has a purpose and a very specific place, in the film.
Right,
If
it
that
makes
makes
sense. It's like an icing on the cake for the segments,
yes,
in a
yeah,
way, for me at least, or icing on the ear. I don't know how you really say
yeah,
that. You understand? And it makes sense. It's very episodic, and it's mini stories in a way, and what we wanted to understand is, I guess this was shot in a short time, and it was edited, or at least in a very short time. How do you even approach that? What was your attack going into this? With
yeah. We knew we had a very, very short window of time to shoot and to edit. The first version of this had to be done by mid-January, and so we started principal shooting, I think, on the 3rd of November, and we were very fortunate and unfortunate at the same time, because COVID really kind of ran the schedule of how we started producing the actual physical, filming. We had people walking off sets. We had shoots canceling on while we were rolling. We had musicians getting sick and all kinds of people getting sick, and we got
wow,
lucky because no one on our crew got sick. But we just had to, I have exceptionally talented small group of people who really know how to work under pressure and how to deliver something so large in such a small period of time.
that's amazing. I mean, it's clear that they have it down. There's no doubt.
Yeah.
It's a beautiful execution. I know that you have some pretty amazing friends, musicians, and there's some that we didn't see in the film. Is there a reason we didn't see particular musicians in this film, knowing that you know so many?
Yeah, I honestly started calling some of my friends, on the top end of of producing the film, and after talking to two or three managers and handlers and some of those friends, I realized how much that would pull from the narrative of the story. So if you have a really big celebrity in there, that's what you're focused on is, okay, what's he wearing? What's it look like? And for us, it was the danger of COVID. A lot of them were very isolated and wanted it to be on their terms, and I needed the film to be on my terms. And so the probably the most recognizable celebrity, there's a few of them in there, but the most like recognizable celebrity that you'll see in there is Sarah McLachlan. She's in the film, and she's in a performance because she trusted the process. We've known each other for a really long time, and what she does with the school is the real deal. That's why I chose her. It's, everything in the
Right.
film had to be completely honest, and what she does very quietly, for underprivileged kids, in Vancouver and in Edmonton. There's not a lot of fanfare to what she does. She just does it because she loves what that does to her, to other people. And so that's why, I personally called her and asked her if she would be involved in it. And then I asked her if she would um, do this performance of Smile that was extremely brave and revealing and honest.
Yeah, her performance was so it's gentle and soft, and I mean, it just made me cry. I watched
Mm.
this film, and there's moments where I just can't help but cry, and
Yeah, thank you.
and even when it's a happy moment, it doesn't matter. It's just tears of pure emotion, And I think that's kind of where music takes people mostly is, the question of what is music to you. When you ask everybody that you end up with a different answer no matter what, but it's mostly about emotion. How did you come up with this title for the film? Is it is it something that you had thought of, or is something?
Yeah, I just started thinking about what to call it, and I realized that the entire film is about inclusion and about unity and about uh, um, belonging and a sense of belonging and inspiration. And, I started this as the idea that this would be an episodic, adventure. And I, there were so many places we could dive into, like, uh, just all these different cultures and all these different, ways that music is made, all around the world, or subject matter that is so interesting to me that we never got to, or we attempted and then it just COVID took over, or what have you. And I realized somewhere in the, in the process of putting the film together, it was about us. This is the sound of us. These are the voices of extraordinary people that do extraordinary things in music. And it is not the sound of me, it's the sound of all of us together. And it just completely kind of naturally made sense.
It makes sense. And if there were any other ideas, I don't think they would have been as good as that. It's perfect.
Yeah, I honestly, I don't know. I can't even think about what else we kind of came up with. I just walked in one day and just said, I think the name of the title is going to be "The Sound of Us," and everybody was like, "That's amazing." And I mean, a lot of this film came together by itself. It was kind of a really remarkable experience when you're starting to film something that's very unique and extraordinary in its story. And the title kind of reflects all that. It all came together so well.
Yeah, it was awesome. I really feel that I mean, I honestly just can't wait for a series. I'll be real honest. It would just be great to have a Sound of Us series, and all the unfinished or stories that never really kind of got told, because I know there was a few that you had. Can you tell us a particular story that you really, maybe even just a story during the whole filming process, that you really recall that you want to talk about, something that really stood out maybe?
Well, what interests me is how I could have spent an entire hour talking about the Holocaust segment for Francesco Latoro. That man is fascinating to me, and the work that he has done, his life work, is fascinating to me, and it's heartbreaking to me as well. And so I was approaching all of these really kind of the same way. I could spend, I don't know, 52-minute episode alone on that, 52-minute episode on the Mongolian throat singers. There was a father-daughter act in Mongolia that I fell madly in love with, and I really wanted to explore that lifestyle and that life and how they're really cute together. And I wanted to tell there's all these stories like that I wanted to tell. But we and then there were some really, really remarkably heartbreaking stories about how people communicate only through music, because of disabilities and things like that, and but just never came together because it was just too difficult to pull together in that such a short period of time. So we have about 800 hours of interviews. But the segments themselves, once we got down to, we had about 30 segments we were going to try to attack, and then at the end we had to really focus to get it done. With the 9 segments that we knew were going to make the film.
Yeah, I mean, it still worked, and there could have been a shuffle of half a dozen other ones that you switched out, and it still would have had the same impact. I think when you mentioned, and you've talked about this, is that music is the star of this film, and that's what enables this story to be told in such a way, because that's the constant through the whole film is music is the carrier of the message, of unity and of us, and how we use music as a tool to inspire, to convey any emotion, either be sad or happy, and it's always a good thing, always a good thing. I know that you're a musician, and you well, you're a writer, but as far as a writer that did this, you had to put music on a movie about music. with musicians that are performing music. How did you manage the composition of the film as far as the music was executed? How did you manage in between, and what was your approach there?
Yeah. You know, I kind of look at myself sometimes and wonder how I get anything done. You know, I don't, you know, like I can barely tie my shoes on a good day, and I go in these remarkable creative spurts where once the pressure really kind of comes on, I really get a clarity in my work. And typically, what happens, you know, as a director, and I score all of my own work, I understand the audible and the visual process together. And as I explained earlier, if you go back and actually look at some of the scoring, like a great example is the Holocaust, the Francesco Latoro segment. The entire score is written to kind of beat you up to a place where it leads you all the way up to a very thin tension line where you hear the 16 bars of the Yiddish song, and you know, you're reading what the words mean, and it's heartbreaking. And then from there, the music completely celebrates those 16 bars by taking those 16 bars and blowing them into this massive score. And what I did was I just took that melodic line of those 16 bars, yeah,
Right.
and just made it this huge, you know,
I felt
this
it.
huge, like, yeah, you know, score. So um I sit down. I have, you know, there's several pianos here in the studio, but I actually don't like writing here. I actually like writing in the chaos of my home. I have 4 children, and I do most of my writing by myself in, you know, in one of the rooms in the house. But oftentimes when I send my work, I kind of dictate all of my work in kind of a shorthand between myself and this gentleman, Lendl Black, who does all my orchestrations. And so I'll just start either writing it down, or I'll you know, record it on my iPhone. And you know, 9 times out of 10, there's little kids running around in the back screaming and crying, and you know, and I don't even hear it. And but this is the way it's gone on for years. And sometimes Lendl will come in and he'll play me what I was saying to him over, you know, over the recording, and all I can hear is crash, smash, bang, nah, daddy, blah, blah, you know. And you know, but in that chaos, it really actually helps me, weirdly enough,
Well, you're
to
home.
be
I mean,
inspired. Yeah, it's a very, for, I think for most people it's very hard to work like that, but for whatever reason, I that's where I super focus, and I prefer that, you know, that method.
there's a particular comfort from working from home, just knowing that you can, you know, that you could be with your
Yeah.
family too, and there's a certain
Yeah.
level of, you know, you can kind of do whatever you want.
Yeah.
And that's maybe has something to do with it. Maybe, I don't know, but
You know,
we
I mean,
yeah,
yeah, sorry. Well, let me just to say, I actually enjoy being with the gang, working on
of course,
projects.
yeah,
Yeah, it's just writing is just, it's a
that's
very different
interesting.
process for me. Yeah.
That's just an interesting aspect. You know,
Hmm.
I would have never known. It's like you have 5 pianos at the studio. I write at the house. You know,
Exactly.
that's cool though.
Yeah.
They have a couple questions here for us. It says the music centers around music in the film, or I'm sorry, well, the music centers around the focus of music. And then you have Sekou Andrews with spoken word, and they're asking why you decided to include a word artist. And as far as I'm concerned, even spoken word is musical. Even our speech is musical. You can really break it down. But I guess they're asking what made you decide to do that particular song, or quote unquote song, as spoken word.
Yeah, thank you. And Casper, you just answered it. To me, and I say it in the narration leading up into that segment,
Right.
is that sometimes the words we speak are the truth of music. Spoken word to me is music. It's rhythmic. It is art. It is direct. It is honest. And I felt right from the beginning compelled to have a spoken word artist and somebody who could deliver the idea of deconstructing the interpretation of what Amazing Grace is to a gigantic score and a gigantic choir and this gigantic movement that is taking you on a journey to a place where you cannot catch your breath. And that was a 7-minute one take performance by Sekou Andrews, and for me is the pinnacle moment of the entire film. I needed somebody to speak a truth that we all understood, and I didn't want it to be sung. I wanted it to be musically delivered in spoken word. So it was very deliberate.
Interesting. And I loved that. I'll say it one more time. I loved that. His delivery was flawless. His emotion was exactly where it needed to be. Every word, every single thing he did in both form and movement and sound, it was flawless. So you made the right choice, my friend. You did.
Yeah, thank you. Thank you.
They're asking about if there was a catalyst for making this film. I guess it's some sort of a motivation for it. And was the project done maybe because of COVID, or was it born out of an idea before the pandemic?
Yeah. So, thank you for the question. The project. I'm not a very political person. I just couldn't take what we started doing to each other through a series of through a series of years that just kind of led us to last year. And I believe in honesty and dignity and unity and inclusion. I'm a and I don't just, those are not words to me. They mean something to me. I'm raising 4 children. Now I'm getting upset. I want them to be good girls and boys and good young men and young women I had to keep explaining to my son the difference between right and wrong in this world, and how we don't treat people and how we do treat people. And last year in particular, through the summer, and watching the riots and Breonna Taylor and George Floyd, and and realizing that I used to watch the civil rights beatings in the 60s on TV, and I used to think to myself, well, there's no, that's not from my time. So and we don't do that anymore. And realizing that we're just heading backward, I felt like I needed to say to everyone, we are good, and music creates that unity and that empathy, and if you look in your heart and you attach music to it, you find the truth. And that's what I wanted to present. It was COVID. Many of my friends were unemployed. The world was upside down. I became extremely angry in it, and it was my 11-year-old son who said, if you have something to say, you should probably say it. And so that's kind of where we got to. Yeah,
That's interesting too. Your son literally told you that?
He did. We were at the kitchen table, and he said, I think his exact words were, I was actually doom scrolling on CNN or something, just because
I get it.
I just upset, and he said, Dad, you're a filmmaker and you have something to say, then you should probably say something. And I turned to him and I looked at my wife and I said, he's a pretty smart little kid, So
well, apple didn't fall too far, right?
I don't know about that.
I do know, that a lot of people are saying like this movie is your like love letter to musicians, or to some extent your ode to music. To me, it's like music has always been a voice for people. It's been a message carrier. And with this film, you give music its voice. And I think music has kind of lost its voice in a way. in the, I guess, the quality of music and the genuine soul that used to be in music when you'd have a real live band playing in a studio and that's generating the energy versus 5-6 different musicians or producers combing over a track and making it, that you allowed music to have its voice in this film. Was that a goal for you?
Yeah, it's not often that you're going to see a documentary where there's probably 200 musicians who actually performed in it, and and really big, symphonic scores and huge choirs, this is a celebration of what music is, and the joy that we had to make this film, and to present this film, and the honor that we had, 5 people got together and just completely converged here in this building, and spent 3 months of their lives dedicated to how tough it was to produce this film. I'm a creative, and I often behave like a creative, and I'm very fortunate that I have people like Jalissa Gausho who talked me in and in and in and in as I was talking myself out of Amazing Grace. I just kept saying it's just too hard, it's too hard, and she would just like say no, 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 and I have these cheerleaders around me, and these team members, my friends around me who we wrote and made this film, where music is a celebration of the best of who we are, and I'm very, very proud to have this journey with them and to be able to present this to you guys.
It's special. It's really well received and appreciated. I can promise you that. There's a couple questions and comments here I'm going to read. It says, kudos to the DP, Ben James. The cinematography was amazing, especially with the musical performances. Were there any particular challenges to create a synergy with the music?
Hey, is that your mom, Ben? Ben's over here in the corner. Anyway, Ben is a very, very dear friend and a sweet man, and he traveled the country, much to my dismay during COVID. He traveled across the country, flew all over the place, drove all over the place, often with him in just a grip, for hours on end. He was the kind of the U.S. unit of it. There was all kinds of challenges because we had a very, very tiny actual location crew here. We would pick them up in different cities, but Ben had to juggle all of that, juggle all of the scheduling, and then we were just, it was just made with a really, really tiny group, and so it was super challenging because it was just so stressful. But he. I could walk over and punch him in the face right now, and he'd just probably say, "Thank you. That was amazing." He's got this remarkable giving sense of humor and appreciation, and I'm very fortunate that he's with us.
There's another comment I wanted to mention. It's saying that people noticed that there was a lot of attention played towards how we feel music, especially for those who go to performances and clubs. Do you think we will be able to return to the clubs again, or do you think our attitudes towards music will change because of what's happened?
Yeah, I think we will see music again. I think we will experience live music again.
Definitely.
I think it will be bigger than it was before. I think our appreciation for the working musician has gone up, significantly. I think, we all miss it, and I think that I think this deepens our appreciation for the things that slowly kind of were silenced. I don't think there was a really big appreciation for the arts for such a long time, and it just slowly started to descend. And I think really kind of the capstone for a lot of us is what happened to a lot of us, last year and this year.
True.
And I really think it'll come back in a big way.
We have another comment and question here. It says education appears as an important aspect for children, which Sarah McLaughlin mentioned. What do you think the fate of music education is in the public system?
Yeah, that's a really good question. I feel like I feel like we need to double down on the messaging. I feel like, and it's really important as to why it's in the film, is because you know what children learn from learning music opens their horizons. So I mean, I don't want to start babbling on about scientific studies and what it does for your brain and all that stuff.
Helps.
It's yeah, and it what music education does for does to a child is give them this ability to be creative in their own space and to present this vulnerability, this ability to change somebody else's life through what they are presenting. And it's a very, very powerful medium, and it's a very, very rewarding thing to belong to something that is doing good in the world. And I just feel like we do not even remotely come close to addressing why it's important to create that type of empathy, especially to give that type of power to a child.
Yeah, I'm an advocate for music education no matter what. I do teach, and there's no reason why we should not have a music program in every single institution that teaches kids.
Yeah.
There's no way that you should not have music if you have sports. There's no
Yeah.
way that, I mean, I'm fine to change everything that is right now to get to that level. I
Yeah.
don't really feel, I think it's just as important, when a child can't poetically say what they need to on paper, but they can write a song that tells everybody exactly what they feel and even puts words into other people's mouths. That's one of the greatest tools we can give them, no doubt. I agree wholeheartedly. We have a couple more. It's almost over this short time we had. Let me read this for you. Sarah Bachler was the other writer, and not sure if she is a musician, people are saying. What was the experience working with one another? With another writer?
Sarah and I have worked together on many films, actually, and besides being one of the most intelligent women I've ever met, she has an amazing sense of humor, and um, you know, Sarah often doesn't get a lot of credit, and but she's always the one who has all the answers. She's always the person who, if I say I need somebody to dig a little deeper, she's she's my go-to. She's the nerdy smart one in the room, and we have I'm again another one who I'm very grateful to have such a really strong relationship with, who really loves what she's doing, and really it really shows in the detail. And she is one hell of a writer on top of it, and she writes a lot of my speeches. And I got to tell you, like, I think she just sits there and laughs while she's writing them, because I can't. I sit and just curse her name every single time that I have to say something that she's written, because I think she does it on purpose. Yeah.
Well, I hope
She's
so. This is
beautiful.
no, I'm just kidding. That is great.
Oh yeah.
I think it's an awesome relationship, but you're a very lucky man to have such great team that you work with. I did want to mention just a couple more things that we have coming in. There was a quote. It says, "Life is suffering. Music can soften it." But what would you say to a person that's not musically inclined?
You don't have to be. Tell me why you love. Tell me why you dance. Tell me why you hear something. Tell me the difference between seeing a father walking a bride down the aisle without music, and then you hear the music, it creates this space inside of you that you cannot explain. And that is what it means. That's
That
what it
makes
means.
sense.
Okay.
There's another one. Are we getting a lot of people asking, was there stuff that didn't make the final cut, and was there something that you wanted to share with us? I know there's hundreds of hours, but
Yeah.
if there's even one thing that you wanted to talk about that we didn't get a chance to talk about, I guess now's the time.
Yeah, no, I mean, there are all these beautiful little stories that that we couldn't get to, because it was very difficult to produce this film in COVID, and I mean, there were beautiful stories of how music, how this is one example of one story I'll tell you. Sarah was actually chasing down a story about this gentleman, and I think he's in Kentucky, and what he does is, and it's quite sad. He records the heartbeat of a dying patient, and then he turns that heartbeat into a musical composition, and then he gives that musical composition to the 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 parents of the child who died, or what have you. And it is a heartbreaking story, but it is and the empathy and the beauty of that exchange is stunning. And
Interesting.
and yeah, and we couldn't get to it,
Wow.
and I wanted to, but it was so so sad, but because of the way we were, the timing that we had and what have you, we never got to that particular story. But that's one of probably 100 we were like
Wow.
exploring. Yeah.
Yeah, and then people just keep saying, "Do you plan on doing a sequel to this documentary?"
Mhm.
It's clear
Yeah.
that the
Yeah.
concept is very well received. People want to hear more about these little mini
Yeah.
stories about how music is involved in everybody's lives.
Yeah. Yeah, the entire design is for this to be episodic, and and so when we knew that when we started, we just got the film done. So
Right.
yeah.
I just wanted to say thank you one more time for letting us speak with you. Thank you for this film. I want to show it to everybody I know,
Oh, thank you.
and I will, one person at a time. And that's going to be kind of my mission with this film. Every time I see something that I really love, either be a song or even something that I play that I really like, I show it to everybody, and this is one of those things. So thank you for that.
Thank you. And thank you for having us, Casper. Thank you for moderating it, and Ivan Weiner. Thank you for having us, and it's an honor to be here. It's an honor to be with you guys and to talk about this film. And we hope that it inspires everybody who sees it, and that's what we intend. That's the entire mission of the film.
I am inspired. I know everybody I've spoke to has been inspired. Mission accomplished. We'll just keep putting one person in front of the film at a time if we have to.
Thank you.
I would like to thank everybody, Casper, Chris, Jalissa, Ben, especially Sarah, for all of the amazing work that went into The Sound of Us and being participants in the festival this week. It's not over. We have a long way to go till Sunday in the awards, but this is certainly one of the showcase events. When we talk about Albuquerque film and music experience and celebrating the creative equality between film and music, this documentary in particular speaks that language like no other film we've had in the festival since inception. So great work, Chris and team. Thank everybody. Thanks for joining us tonight. Keep in mind that all of our events are available through October 11th. So if you did not see The Sound of Us, you have to get in, check it out. It's for every creative, every musician, everybody around the world who loves music and just life in general. So really appreciate this Q&A and the screening tonight. Stay tuned tomorrow morning for our next event. We kind of switch over from music into our Native American focus with one of the most impactful Native activists in the world, LaDonna Harris, at 9:30 with a center stage conversation talking about her incredible documentary, Indian 101. And we have the beautiful, talented director, writer, actress, singer, Morris Studi. She's Wes Studi's better three quarters. She'll be moderating tomorrow morning. So we look forward to seeing everybody tomorrow morning. Day 5 of AFMX 2021, the virtual edition. We're pumped for the weekend, but make sure you check out all the movies if you haven't seen them yet. Also the center stage conversations, Sekou Andrews, one of my top 3 events of AFMX since inception, behind Redford and Jeff Bridges and Nathan East. So, definitely check that one out. Looking forward to seeing everybody tomorrow. Thanks again. Look forward to you tuning in. Visit afmxnm.com for all of the details. Good night, everybody.